Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Young Werther, and this is a new indie rom-com coming your way from writer-director Jose Avellino, Gilles Corbert Lorenco, and this film focuses on the story of Werther, played by Douglas Booth, who's, kind of a bohemian just going through life. He's a young writer, he's from a rich family, and he could kind of just do whatever the hell. And he falls in love with Charlotte, played by Alison Pill, who is going to get married to a successful lawyer, Albert, played by Patrick J. Adams. And this film really goes through in terms of what love really is, and what a relationship really needs, and also a coming-of-age story in many ways for Werther, because he doesn't have his stuff together. He pals around with his 19-year-old best friend and just kind of finds himself into Charlotte's life by chance. And this film, through the music and the cinematography and how it's all presented by Lorenco, it just has this vibe of not quite Wes Anderson-y, but it's that stylish, hipstery, quirky kind of indie rom-com feel that kind of started popping up in the 90s into the early 2000s, and this really channels that experience. It has that kind of charm. And Werther is a hopeless romantic. He's also immature. He's abrasive. He's annoying. He's charming. He's all of these things, and I think Booth does a really fine job of realizing this character and not making him feel like some kind of caricature. He is this mixture of complicated and sometimes contradictory things. And you realize that this film, it's charming. It's supposed to be like, oh, this lawyer Albert guy, he doesn't pay enough attention to Alison Pill's Charlotte, and, she deserves better. She deserves Werther. But then realizing, I feel like this film is mature enough to help us, the audience, and Werther realize, you don't have a whole lot besides being charming and fun to bring to the table. And I do feel like this film leans into a lot of familiar beats throughout most of it, but I do appreciate that the film has a bit of a sobering kind of conclusion that's really necessary for this story to work. Because, this could have ended in this really cheesy, hey, they wound up together happily ever after. And it's just that's not how this should end, or how it would end, and how the film progresses. I think a big piece of this is Alison Pill, who brings a lot to the character of Charlotte. There's a lot of complex emotions here. You could feel her struggle. And I think Adams does a fine job as Albert, who has a little bit more depth than you might think that he does initially. It's a weird comparison, but he's like a Luke Wilson type character, where Luke Wilson doesn't need to add a whole ton of personality, but you just have to have a feeling you know what, I actually kind of like you and feel bad for you if something bad happens to you, and it has that kind of feel. I did like Amrit Kaur and Iris Apatow, who play best friend and sister to Charlotte. They add some fun color in terms of supporting characters to the story. And this film is charming, it's quirky, and in the end has some good messages to learn out of it. I'm not saying this is the most compelling, fresh, or dynamic of modern indie rom-coms. It feels like it's pulling a lot from a lot of things. We have seen characters like this before. We have seen Werthers plenty of times. I'm just saying I think Booth and Pill and the whole rest of the cast and Lorenco are able to, forge something here that is enjoyable, but also a bit sobering, and gives you a type of message that I think is worth hearing. But those are my thoughts on Young Werther. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.